that was my customer was paying for, so that's what I wanted. So what I tried to do, I tried looking toward all the log files. What I found is rather weird, because there is one log file which is well documented. You can find it. It's not secret. In VMware, in the VMware installation, by default, which stores a very interesting snippet of information, which is very nice to have from a pen testing perspective. Did you know about the vpxd profiler logs? Those are performance logs. So you can find if your vCenter is working okay or not. What I found inside, well, there's a lot of stuff actually. I did not analyze all of them, just looked for this one. What I found is that inside the vpxd profiler log file, you can find the session ID, the SOAP session ID of all the users who just logged in. Bingo. So all we had to do is to read the file through my exploit, today our exploit. I didn't find it. I actually just noticed that it was there. Get the SOAP session ID and own the box. I just wait for the administrator to connect, get his session ID, write this session, and I'm done. And once again, it was, huzzah! No, didn't work. Because that's the client. Where do you write the SOAP ID? What I tried to do is to hijack the client and start doing that manually, inserting the session ID manually inside the client. It didn't work because there are very tight timeouts. So you just can use a username and password. I didn't have username and passwords. I only have a SOAP session ID. I needed to write the session. So I had to get back to writing the exploit for that as well. What I did was doing just like the monkeys. Do you know what monkeys do in Saturday evening? This. Okay, they go around on dogs. Well, what I did was I wrote my own session writer. Well, actually it's crappy code, okay? I'm making it very long, but it's actually very simple. What I did is I just wrote a proxy which was able to emulate, to fake all the login phase and the beginning of the connection with the VI client and just inject the SOAP session ID inside an existing session so I could write the remote user session. The problem was just that being a binary client, you cannot just start from show me the list of machines. It doesn't work like that. It has to go through all the states of the finished state machines, the finished state automata. So you have to do all the steps properly. So the VMware session writer module will just get a session ID and let you write another user session by faking all the login procedure and give you the access to the remote server. Since, as I told you, I'm very lazy and I like one-click exploit, what I did is I crossed the last two exploits and I built a VMware outbound module, which you can find easily on Basto. Let's see how it works out. Once again, video, but ask later for me for a live demo, no problem with that. There you go. So this is our target. This is vSphere 4.0, but it works anyway on 4.1. Okay? For this stuff, VMware issued a patch for the Jetty stuff. There is an update available. There is a script you can download for the knowledge. What's the name of that? The knowledge base. And you can just apply the script and run the script, and you will be safe. It was released, I believe, on the 19th of July. However, this attack will work on any default installation, and it's not an automatic patch feature. So, as pen tester, it's good because I don't believe a lot of people are going to patch. Maybe after this talk, but not really a lot of people. So, we're going to attack this vCenter server. As you can see, it's running on a virtual machine. So what we're going to do is we are going to do a standard connection, okay, just like the administrator would, just to write the session ID inside the log. Just write the session ID inside the log. So here it is. The administrator is logging in. So just standard connection, nothing strange here. It loads the plugins. And now the administrator, evaluation version. Now the administrator is going to, to work, to do his job, which is creating folders mostly. Okay, now there is one little detail which drove me nuts when I was preparing this video, and that's the reason why I'm not doing that live. Because the log file is not like written in real time. So you just log in and look for the session ID, you won't find it. It's written every 5 minutes. It's flashed on the disk every 5 minutes. So notice it's now 0:40 on the clock. So it's now being written on the disk, and you should be able to see the disk activity in a moment. Yeah, here it is. So this is instead the attacker. Okay, so this is Metasploit running in the attacker box. What we are going to do, we are just going to use, well, to do some typo, and then send the remote host IP address, and that's the only information the auto-pwn module actually needs. So we set the remote IP address, and yeah, just to prove you, it's the right one, no fake here. Yeah, no fake in a video. And we run the auto-pwn module. We run the exploit. So what's going to happen here is that the exploit, the module, is going to go through, cycle through, because the log is rotated, so you have to find the right one. So it's going to all the logs, finding the log, downloading the log through the directory traversal vulnerability, parse the log for session ID, gets the latest session ID. You can tune this one, but yeah, gets the session ID, and then start the local proxy, starting the local proxy. So what we do now is we just connect to the local proxy and write the session. So let's get to this is the attacker desktop, obviously. And as you can see, the attacker is going to connect to a different server with a different port. That's where the proxy is. So we just enter, this is the keyword, bypass me is the keyword, so the module can know that it has to activate. You can also use this module to sniff a password, but then that's not very interesting. Come on, we want to own without a password. So this is the certificate warning, unfortunately, but it's the attacker after all. And we can see the attacker connecting, and you can see there are two different session ID, because the first session ID is the one we have to provide to begin the login procedure. Afterwards, we inject the stolen session ID, as you can see. Okay, this is 664. Okay, this is the stolen one. So we start using the stolen one, injecting the stolen one back inside the client. So now the performance will more or less suck, thanks to the powerful Ruby language, and we will be able to start to assess the remote host. Here it is, no password. Thank you. Evaluation pop-up. Okay. Notice that we are the administrator right now. Okay. So we are just inside the administrator session. What if the administrator logs out? Well, we kick it out as well. So we have to take care of that, being quickly creating the user or using another module, which is not released now because 90% of the time it screws up the remote server, so you don't want to use that now. But we have to give permissions to another user to be administrator quite quickly. Otherwise, we get kicked out. But I'd say that in a pen test, that's more or less enough, okay? You get inside, and now you can operate, you can do whatever you want as the administrator, like creating a new folder, which is what administrators do. Okay, there we go, Pwned, and so on. Okay, so this is the auto-pwn module, which is one of the ways which you can assess the remote server. However, I developed this some 10 days ago. However, while I was on the plane, with nothing to do, but being on the plane, I started doing some research on the last version of VMware, on version 4.1. And I found something which is quite interesting, in my opinion. I guess you all know Tomcat, right? Yeah, you do. So VMware knows too, because it's using Tomcat to run most of its services. However, the administration panel was disabled in previous versions. Well, guess what? In version 4.1, it has been enabled back. So it's there. And there is a standard user, which is VMware admin, which is your friends. So in all my tests, the password for this user has been randomly generated and is 4 uppercase characters, 1 number, and 1 lowercase character, starting with a lowercase character. So I don't know how many, maybe there are like 60 million different combinations, and just doing that, the number, making up the number by mind, but could be possible to pen test, to brute force it. However, there is another thing which I would like to point you out. This is a VMware vCenter installation running on top of Windows 2008. Oh, before anything else, let me show you the log file. This is the vpxd profiler log, which I just downloaded. And if you just look for administrator, you can see that you have a lot of logs referring to these administrators. And, well, I can't zoom on this one, but inside this log, you can find the SOAP session ID as well. If we go hunting for them on the file system, so if you want to check on the file system of the remote vCenter host, we can see, well, I can't see, but you should be able to see that program files, where is it? Here it is. No, let's say it's program data. The log is situated in program data, VMware, which is, I can see, is this one, VMware, infrastructure, Virtual Center, it is. We have the logs, and here we have the log. And quite interesting is that any user can read that. So any user with actual local access to the vCenter server can take over the server. So that's one of the reasons why VMware correctly says that you should not allow local access, even remote desktop access, to the vCenter. Okay, so that's why they're saying that. There is very good reason, one of the reasons at least. The other thing, as I was saying, is that there is the Tomcat installation here, which is, there we go, program files, and VMware, and infrastructure, and Tomcat, conf, and Tomcat users.xml. Let's open with Notepad. And as you can see, we have the VMware admin user with a, not easy, but an interesting password. And with this password, what you can do is you can launch your own very favorite browser, point to the remote server, and this is the standard, the default Tomcat page, which you get if you connect to the remote port. This is VMware host, remember, 150 is the IP of the VMware server you just seen. We just connect to this port. We get the Tomcat manager. There should not be the Tomcat manager here, but what we do is you just use a VMware admin user with the password we just stolen, which is this one. Let's see if I can do copy paste, but I'm not really believing that. Let's see. No. There we go. And you just have full control of the vCenter server once again, because you can upload any WAR file you like. There is already a module on Metasploit to do exactly that. Okay? So that's once again another way. Okay, that was from the plane. So maybe there is more to do there, but I'm not sure about that. Not researched that enough. Okay, there is still more, obviously, because we're still leaving out the management part. So we're still leaving out all the management interface, which is what you use to actually administer your VMware server. So there is a lot to do here, because that's the front-facing component. Mind you, users should not be able to see all this nice stuff, because your VMware vCenter server should be confined in the management network, well hidden from all the rest of the network. It doesn't happen in my experience. Okay, it doesn't really happen. So what we are going to do is we are going to attack the interface, which is a lot of fun, usually. It is web-based in this case, so it's not client, it's a web-based interface. For instance, VMware has got the web access interface, which is complex system, which is very hard to make secure. There is nothing really particular here when you pen testing it, because it's a web interface, so you can pen test with OWASP standard ways, the pen testing guide, for instance. But there are some interesting insights in it. For instance, you might know there were cross-site scripting attack, which were obviously not ported to Vasto for now, because Metasploit doesn't support XSS, to the best of my knowledge, and a URL forwarding vulnerability, which I read about, and once again, no exploit for that. I don't know if you remember that. There were a bunch of updates to the web access interface, to the web interface some time ago, but no exploit for them. So we had to reverse that. Oh, as a bonus, if the user ever has access to the local vCenter system, the shutdown keyword has not been changed. What does it mean? Well, it means that if you connect locally to a vCenter machine, so you get access to the local vCenter machine even through RDP or locally, you can shut down the Tomcat system, which is the core system managing a lot of services, just by connecting to a given port and writing shutdown. Okay? The user should not be able to know the keyword, because this is set in an XML file, which is not accessible by any user. So that's, yeah, it's a leftover, not very useful for a pen test